Starting from my earliest memories, I could hear and feel things that didn't seem to be heard and felt by people around me, especially my parents. Somehow I could hear or feel when adults were saying one thing and thinking another thing. It wasn't until many years later that I found out that that's called clairaudience. Now how it functions is often I'll hear what people are going to say right before they say it, or what they're not saying. And that's how I'm able to teach and work with people one-on-one and in groups. So as a little boy, I was super curious. I picked up on all sorts of things around me. I loved spending time alone in nature especially. The house we lived in when I was about 4 years old had an apple orchard nearby that I would just go sit in, and it was so alive for me. I found that over time where I really connected and found myself would be in nature, away from people, or with quiet people in nature, away from all the human constructs. When I was about 12, I moved from South Carolina, where I had lived with my dad for about a year, back up to upstate New York with my mom in Rochester, New York. And as a woman who was in corporate training and executive coaching, she knew what was up. I was coming to a new school in a new town. And she handed me a copy of Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And whatever she was reading for work, she would hand me. She also put me back at the YMCA, where I grew up spending a lot of time as a kid involved in their Leaders Corps, this development program to train leaders that I stuck with for many years. Shortly thereafter, I was given my first quartz crystal, working on a production of You Can't Take It With You, my freshman year in high school as an actor. And that led me to a New Age bookstore where I begged my mom to bring me every weekend. And I would just sit for hours reading and looking and learning and so curious, one thing leading to the next. Got very involved with the United Methodist Church in my town. In fact, I got a wonderful scholarship that got me through school. But while I was still in high school, was involved with the youth group, was president of the youth group. We would go building homes for poor people in different parts of the country. I learned so much about true wealth at that point. In fact, I remember going to work to build an addition for a one-room house in the Appalachian part of Virginia. The only water they had was running through a single tap, and whatever the temperature outside would be the temperature of their water. And they had this video cassette tape of the life of Jesus, and they gifted it to us. It was their prized possession. And I realized that they were some of the wealthiest people I'd ever met. Then when I went on to school, there was another New Age bookstore right across the street where I spent hours and hours. Every Tuesday I would meditate with a group for 4 years. My mom paid for me to have past life regressions. I started developing the intuition, learned about healing, learned Reiki, became a Reiki master. And then right around the time that I graduated from college, I had read Autobiography of a Yogi. It was the first time in my life where I considered the desire to have a teacher, but not just any teacher, a guru. Somebody who was established in the deep state of awakening. I knew somehow that being proximate was a shortcut, that I could read as much as I wanted through books, but book learning wasn't enough. I needed to make contact with people who were actually embodying this energy. So I heard about the first ashram. Took my very first meditation intensive, and it changed everything. Before that meditation intensive, as I mentioned, I've been meditating for years, but it felt like such an effort. Sometimes I would have an experience, but I didn't know how I got there. After that meditation intensive, a particular meditation, August 13th, 1994, right before lunch, I remember sitting in the hall. I was tired from the first day of the intensive. My knees ached, but something let go in me. And all at once it was like the lights turned on inside of me, and they've never turned off since. I had a wonderful life before that, albeit with a lot of challenges, but a wonderful life. And yet after this meditation, I felt like I'd become alive for the very first time. In a way, like going from black and white to technicolor. And I knew that this was my life. Whatever it would take to become such a person who could help facilitate other people to find this truth within, to find love within, to find all the greatest fruits of life within. A couple years later, I moved into that ashram, that monastery, full-time, training for several years in Sanskrit, Vedic ceremonies, teaching and leading meditation experiences. And then it was time to move to LA. I didn't know exactly why, I just knew it was time to leave the monastery. Ostensibly to go produce films. So I cut my teeth in LA, working on the side, helping people to grow, but my main job was working for a talent agency, training to be a talent agent for A-list actors. Right around that time, towards the end of that tenure, we lost a famous client who died in a plane crash, and then 2 weeks later, 9/11 happened. I saw my boss walking out one day with what's called the weekend read. It was a stack of scripts he had to get through. And I flashed forward on what my life would be like once I could become an agent, and I realized I'd be probably spending 100 hours a week at work as a perfectionist, and I wouldn't be doing the things that really give my life meaning. So right then and there, it was clear I was going to find a replacement and take my work full-time. So May 2002, I left, went out on my own, and haven't looked back. Continuing to grow. I've had numerous incredible mentors. The gurus of my tradition. Sally Kempton has been huge in my life, looking after me for over 25 years, training me as a teacher. David Elliott, who showed me the breath work, told me I was clairaudient, taught me how to be responsible for exchanging energy. Everything is an exchange. The lessons I got about exchanging with nature and with other people abundantly are so important to this work. My life has been about really being an apprentice and being willing to continue to grow. And recognizing that while the work continues to help so many people to awaken and grow, I don't own the work. It's universal consciousness appearing through the work. And I get to be a willing participant, and I get to benefit and grow along the way.